What's going on, everyone? Captain Horn here. Welcome back to another Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 video. I hope you enjoy watching and maybe even learn a thing or two from this video. Before we begin, if you would like to see more Microsoft Flight Simulator content, please consider subscribing to my channel. It takes less than 5 seconds and it would greatly help my channel out. If you are interested in supporting myself and my channel, be sure to check out the different tiers in my Patreon for different rewards. If you are interested in becoming an active member in my community, or would like to find others to fly with in Microsoft Flight Simulator, feel free to join my Discord. The link to both my Patreon and Discord are in the description. Let's get right into this video. What is going on, everybody? Captain Orange 23 here, and today I will be adding to my Vatsim tutorials. In this video, we are going to learn how to taxi to an active runway, which is the next step after you received a clearance. If you are viewing this video but you are not sure how to receive a clearance, please click the video appearing in the upper right corner and then come back to this video. So now that you know how to receive a clearance, you are ready to learn how to taxi. Now, taxiing is a billion times easier than receiving a clearance. The only thing that you have to remember is the taxi route that the ground controller will give you. After you receive a clearance from the clearance delivery, they will tell you to contact ground on whatever frequency. Now, this is very easy to do. Simply plug in the ground frequency, and when you are ready to taxi, all you have to do is say, "My call sign, ready for taxi." If you want to be even more official, remember which gate you are at and tell the ground controller your location, such as, "My call sign, ready for taxi from gate 110. Now, I should warn you that if you're at a large airport or even a medium-sized airport, have a pen and paper ready to copy down instructions just like we did when we got a clearance in the first video. The ground controller will tell you your taxi route and you just need to read it back. Before we get into some examples, let me clear something up. If there is no ground controller on, but there is a tower on, then that is who you would contact to get your taxi. If there was no ground or tower on, but approach and departure was on, that is who you would contact to get your taxi. And if there was nobody on except a center controller, then you would have to contact the center controller to get your taxi. This is the top-down fashion of Vatsim. Another thing that I highly recommend is using either FLTPlanGo, which I have a video on that is now appearing in the top right, or you can pay for Navigraph. This is because you can actually see your aircraft on an airport chart and you can see exactly where you will be taxiing. If you don't want either of those, I highly recommend printing out an airport chart of the airport you are at and figuring out where you are, so you have a bird's eye view of the airport with all the taxiways marked. In the actual example, I will be using FLTPlanGo. Another thing you can do is use SkyVector and access the taxi charts like this. Simply go to skyvector.com, type the ICAO code of the airport in the search bar, press enter, right-click over the airport and hold your mouse over the blue highlight and click on the airport diagram. Now let's look at two examples. This first one will be at Charlotte International Airport. Let's say my plane is here and I am ready for taxi. I would contact ground or whoever was on and say, "Delta 623, ready for taxi." Then the controller will come back and say this. "Delta 623, Charlotte ground, runway 18 center, taxi via Echo." So, I would taxi my plane from the gate to the closest entry point to Echo, which in this case is Echo 16, then take a right onto Echo, all the way down to the hold short point at 18 center. After I reach 18 center, I would then tune to the tower frequency, and the tower would give me clearance to take off. This was a pretty straightforward example. Let's look at something a little more complex. This, my friends, is Chicago O'Hare International Airport. As you can tell from looking at the chart, this is a huge airport with many different taxiways. I would not recommend trying your first taxi at an airport of this size for obvious reasons. Practice on a smaller airport to get used to how taxiing works. Anyway, let's say my aircraft was here. I would say, "Chicago ground, Delta 623, ready for taxi." The ground controller would come back and say, "Delta 623, Chicago ground, runway 27 right, taxi via Bravo, Romeo, Echo, Mike, cross runway 9 right, cross runway 22 right." As you can tell, this taxi route is much longer and has more involved with it. And I'm here to tell you that it can get even more complicated than that. But this gives you a good idea of what to expect, and now you can see why I say be prepared to write things down. Now that we have looked at two different examples, let's hop into the simulator on Vatsim and get a full taxi clearance. Alright guys, so I'm now in the simulator and I'm connected to Vatsim at Seattle Tacoma International Airport, which is the only airport that I could find that had a ground controller on. If I open vPilot here, we see that Seattle ground is online at 121.7, so of course that's who I'm going to request my taxi clearance from. Now this is after you get your actual clearance, and I've already got my squat code in. He gave me 1515 down there. So we are ready to taxi, and I would contact him, and I already have his, or I would plug in the radio frequency down here in the radios, of course, so my active is 121.7, and he's going to give me a taxi. So let's go ahead and see what he gives me. Now I do have my iPad open with FLTPlanGo, and that is shown right over here. And we see my aircraft is right here. And I know that the active runway from listening to the ATIS is 16 left. So I can expect he's going to give me just Bravo straight down to here. But let's see what he gives me. Now, as always, I do have a notepad ready to write down whatever he gives me. So let's see what he will give me. So I will, of course, say Delta 623, Seattle ground, ready for taxi. And let's see what he gives me. I'm ready to write down whatever he gives me. Seattle ground, Delta 623 is ready for taxi.
Delta 623, Seattle ground, runway 16 left, taxi via Bravo Charlie.
16 left, taxi via Bravo Charlie, Delta 623. Alright, so he gave me exactly what I expected, except I didn't expect the Charlie there, but that makes sense because Charlie is right there before 16 left. So all I wrote down was just 16 left, Bravo Charlie, and I can actually draw on my little chart here what we're going to do. So we'll just take Bravo down just like that, all the way down to Charlie, and hold short right there. So that is exactly what we're going to do. And after you taxi down there, then that's pretty much it. You would then contact tower if there was one on. Now if we look at vPilot, there is actually nobody else on above ground. So what he's going to do is he'll hand me off to Unicom, which is 122.8, and that is essentially when there's nobody else on. So I'm going to go ahead and start up the engines and taxi down there, and let's see what he gives me.
Delta 623, unfortunately no further ATC available. Monitor Unicom 122.8. Have a good flight.
122.8 for Delta 623. Thank you very much. Alright guys, so yes, we are approaching the end of the runway, as you can tell on FLTPlanGo. And like I said, there is nobody else above him because there just isn't. There's nobody online. And he's sending me off to 122.8 because ground, of course, doesn't deal with anything on the actual, or in the air. They can only deal with people on the ground. So I already have 122.8 plugged in, so I'm just going to go ahead and switch over. Now if there was a departure online, that's who he would, or sorry, if there was a tower online, that's who he would hand you off to if there was a tower right here, and they would give you permission to take off. If there was no tower online but there was a departure, then he would hand you to them to take off. And in the next video we will get into taking off and departing an airport, and then we're going to get into the en route and then landing and taxiing in, which is pretty simple. So at this point I could go ahead and take off, but that's for the next video, like I just said. So yeah guys, that's going to do it for this video. Taxiing is pretty simple. It was definitely simple at Seattle Tacoma International Airport, but it can get more complex than that at different airports. But hopefully that gave you a good example, guys. I hope you learned from this video of how to properly taxi at an airport. Be on the lookout for more Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 videos and live streams. And as always, I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day or night. Don't forget to join my Discord and check out my Patreon. Both of those links are in the description. If you need any help, join the Discord or comment below. But for that matter, I will see you guys in the next video.